Welcome to 2 Minutes About Time, the podcast that takes a look at the Richard Curtis film About Time, 2 minutes at a time. I'm Luke Allen, a filmmaker and podcaster. I can't think of anything interesting to say about myself. I'm Luke Allen, a filmmaker and podcaster.
And what's your podcast called?
My podcast is Please Be Seated, and obviously this one is 2 Minutes About Time.
Yeah. And I am Robert Black, college professor and podcaster. My podcasts are Michael Myers Minute, Dave Made a Minute, Annihilation Minute, The Room Minute, Mandy Sucks Minute, Cock and Bull Minute. I think
that
that's
is
it.
a secret list. Are they all the current ones, or are they?
Well, Dave Made a Minute's done. Michael Myers Minute is, I finished the first film, and I keep delaying getting to the second one, because once I commit to the second one, I kind of have to keep going.
That's a good point.
But the others are technically current, yeah.
Yeah, so this is, to the listeners, this is the first time that I've done any proper hosting on a move-by-minute thing, so
Yeah.
There's a good chance I don't know what I'm doing. But it adds to the fun.
Yeah, it's fairly easy, and you can keep it, you control how simple it is.
So I guess a good place to start is, what was your first experience with About Time?
I heard about it when I was doing Groundhog Day Project, and because it was like, the description involved like looping back in time and everything, I'm like, okay, I have to go see that and write about it. And so I saw it opening day. What year was that? Did I have a Friday class? No, it was probably first thing in the morning.
It was 2013, I think, wasn't it? That it came out?
So I wouldn't have had a Friday class, so I would have gone first thing in the morning on Friday to see movies. I don't remember what else came out that Friday offhand, but saw it that day and then wrote about it in a blog later and seen it a couple times since.
I think I watch it like a few times each year, to be honest. Like, it's a film which always seems to cheer me up. I first saw it, I was going to say when I was going through a Richard Curtis phase, but I still am. And I've watched The Girl in the Cafe the other day. That is an amazing film, which is Bill Nighy in the lead in like a romantic drama. And it is...
Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a good film.
I think I've only seen that one once.
It was like a TV movie, but it was it just surprisingly touching. Well, I shouldn't say surprisingly, it's Richard Curtis. But
yeah, it's Richard Curtis.
But yeah, I heard about this film and I was like, I'll give it a watch. First time round, sort of half paying attention, wasn't really bothered. Second time round, something clicked, and then I've basically become near enough obsessed with it now. Like, the soundtrack is the thing I listen to pretty much every day. It makes dog walks interesting, and I know sort of a lot of the lyrics to the Italian song Il Mondo from the film, from the number of times I listened to the soundtrack.
Wow.
I know it phonetically, so it probably is all wrong anyway, but I do know a lot of the English translation, so I'm sure we'll get to that when we do the wedding episode.
I was surprised. I was surprised watching it again the last couple of days, because I hadn't seen it in a while. I remember it being sad, but how many times it's sad, and it's a certain kind of... Yeah. It's an interesting sort of sadness, because it's more like this bittersweet thing constantly, where like the movie still makes you feel good, but it's knowing that bad things are going to happen.
Yeah, and I think Richard Curtis said as well that like he struggled being a comedy writer when people's reaction to it is anything other than laughing. Like, there were interviews and stuff, and people were like, "Oh, I loved it. I cried all the way through," and he struggles to realize that that's a good thing. Like, I was listening to a lot of interviews with that, and apparently, when it came out, the one thing that most people did is they left and they phoned their dad, which I think makes a lot of sense.
Well, then that's accomplishing something, yeah.
Minute one, there isn't too much to talk about.
Before we get to minute one, we could tell them what we're going to be doing.
That is a good idea. Yeah.
Because our format is slightly weird.
That we can expect from the show. Yeah, so do you think we just cover how each week works entirely now, rather than confusing everyone on Friday?
Right.
So each week, normally it'll be myself and Robert and a special guest. We just thought we'd host these one ourselves to make it easy and to not make it really awkward for the guest. And so basically each episode we'll discuss 2 minutes of About Time with different tangents and stuff taking place. And that'll be Monday, Wednesday and Friday. On the Friday, we'll do 1 minute of About Time as normal within the regular progression, and then 1 minute, one of the previous minutes from the film as well, just because the film's about time travel and it's a bit of fun and a chance to sort of revisit and say things that we might not have said already. I don't think we need to do that this week because that'll be a bit weird.
There's nothing really to go back to.
No. But obviously that will all take place as of next week. And we also have a discussion on Fridays as well about, you know, if you could go back in time, what moment in your life would you go back in time to, and
Yeah.
how and why. And I'm sure we'll get to discussing that ourselves on Friday.
And to be
So I
fair,
need
this
to.
first week, he can't time travel yet, so it's fine that we don't.
Ah, yes, good point. So when we move into minute 1 of About Time, we've got we open with the Universal logo. There must be something to say about that, but I don't know what there is to say about the Universal logo.
It's probably been said that thing's been around forever.
It has. Then working title pictures, which I'm pretty sure is like it's basically Richard Curtis's company, isn't it? I don't know whether
It's
he
it's a
actually runs it.
British subsidiary of Universal. I know Richard Curtis does a lot of it, but he's not all of it. I don't think, because they produced Big Lebowski, and I don't think he has anything to do with that movie.
I'm just going to research who started the book because there was. Is there something about? Oh, Tim Bevan started it. That makes sense because he's always on the exec producer credits of basically every film I watch ever. Oh yeah, cool. Because Working Title did Les Mis as well. Yeah, that makes sense. I just automatically associate Working Title with Richard Curtis.
They did the Cornetto trilogy, Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, World's End.
So yeah, basically any of the good things that come from my country are through Working Title.
And I think most recently, a little movie called Cats.
Oh. When I said anything good, well, not necessarily British, is it? I can get
anything notable from the UK. Maybe not all good.
I still haven't seen Cats, to be honest. I will at some point, not in a rush to, but I mean, when all the hype around it being so bad, I wanted to see it, but
yeah,
cinema tickets are so expensive,
and right now
really annoyingly,
it is streaming, but it's like $20. I'm like,
yeah. Really annoyingly, I got a cinema voucher thing for my birthday, which was about a week or two before this all happened. So now I'm able to go to the cinema to see something, and I can't. I think I had another cinema voucher as well that I didn't use. So I guess the question is, what was the just as a different point? What was the last thing you went to see in the cinema before all this?
Onward.
I don't think I
Pixar movie.
know much about that one. Oh yeah, for me, as I said, because I don't go very often, it was Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood.
That was a while ago.
Which I really enjoyed. Like it's weird because we don't really have Mr. Rogers here, but I was aware of him and I'd watched like a load of the documentaries and old episodes because I was preparing for the film, and so it felt really sweet. And I'd imagine it'd be so much more impactful had I like grown up with Mr. Rogers.
I never really watched him. I always was aware of him, but yeah, after the let's see, Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood is that the fictional one, right?
Yeah.
What was the documentary from the year before? Won't You Be My Neighbor?
Won't You Be My Neighbor? Yeah.
Yeah, if you watch those two together, it's a very interesting duo.
I watched like one of them that was on Amazon Prime. I think it was It's You I Like. It was called, but yeah, Won't You Be My Neighbor isn't available in the UK, which is really annoying.
Oh wow,
because
that was really good.
I've heard really good things about it. I might just order an import at some point. Maybe not now because it might take a while. So then, from Working Title Pictures logo,
we
move on. Yeah, we get the title, and The Luckiest instrumental is playing over that. Ben Folds' The Luckiest, which is an amazing song, and very nearly what Richard Curtis titled this film.
Huh. What I love is the way the title card is, the narration starts and it's still black. Because it's kind of like a lot of the time travel stuff happens suddenly, but you don't realize it happens suddenly. Because he's always in like a dark closet or something.
Yeah, I think it's a brilliant opening, and I mean there are very few issues I will have with this film, so a lot of this will be me saying that's good. So
one, it's a great opening line. I always knew we were a fairly odd family is a great opening line if you're going to have a narrator.
Yeah, I think I think the narration works great in this because narration can be a bit of a cliche at times, but I think it works and it really helps.
In a lot of movies, they'll put narration at the beginning and then at the very end, and that's it. And it's like, that was a waste. You didn't need it. I think this movie benefits from the narration.
It does, because other than his dad, there's no one he can talk about this with.
Yeah.
So we need the narration really to help with all this.
Because otherwise, I don't think it would be as emotionally overwhelming, or not overwhelming, but powerful. Because you wouldn't get that thought process. You just have to guess what he's thinking as he goes through all these things.
Yeah, like in watching this film, you basically are Tim, you know?
Yeah.
And you can sort of... I mean, I think Richard Curtis does this quite a lot because he did Bridget Jones, which obviously being her diary makes sense with that as the reason. But there is no sort of diegetic reason for it. Like it's completely non-diegetic, and that's fine.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So yeah, then he says, first there was me, too tall, two, and then we move on to minute two if we're
Yeah.
ready to, I guess.
Well, we got. I think it's worth talking about the visual.
Yes, sorry, I've got the transcript open. That's why. Right.
Yeah, because
I'm
he
loading up
blends into
right
the
now.
hallway in this opening shot. He's barely there. Even his red hair isn't like the way they color timed or whatever. This shot, his hair doesn't stand out, and so his shirt blends in with the like this aqua green of the walls and the lampshade off to the side.
Look at this as well. We didn't mention Relativity Media. No idea anything about them.
Well, they didn't have a logo at the beginning.
Yeah, we've got Universal working title, then we've got Universal Pictures Presents in association with Relativity Media.
Yeah, but the Relativity logo wasn't on the top. Just a credit.
Yeah, it is weird that they're not.
What about the star? You know, you could talk about him before you get
yes,
into
of course
minute
we can.
two.
Yeah, you're right. He is the same colors as the house, really.
There's a lot of that in this opening introduction of the family where they all kind of blend into the space they're in. Like they are part of this house. It's kind of interesting.
Even down to his trousers matching the floor and his t-shirt matching the background. Like it's definitely going to be a conscious decision from Richard Curtis at this point. And it's
well, and these walls don't look quite that shade of green in later scenes. So it's a deliberate lighting or like post-production work on this scene.
It sort of shows how at home and how sort of perfect his life is.
He's part of the house.
Which I guess works with the fact that the song that's playing is the luckiest. I think the next thing to talk about is Donald Gleason's accent. He's got a really strong Irish accent normally. And can't hear that in this.
You'd have a better handle on that than me. I've seen him in lots of stuff, but I don't always notice the specific accent.
Yeah, I guess from your American side of things, is the English and Irish accent not too dissimilar?
Well, when they're next to each other in the same movie, the same scene, yeah, they'd be obvious. But like, do I think of him as Irish? I don't know if I do, because like he's in the Harry Potter movies, which are very British. He's in Ex Machina, which is Alex Garland film, so it's British.
He's American in Ex Machina, actually, isn't he?
Well, I think he's sort of going for no accent in it, but it's debatable whether he's American. But that's for an Ex Machina podcast.
Yeah, so basically, yeah, at least to me, his normal accent in interviews like genuinely shocked me, considering how British he is in this and how American he does seem in Ex Machina and in Futile and Stupid Gesture, which I didn't even realize was him in A Futile and Stupid Gesture until I watched it like the second time round.
I don't think I've actually watched it. I know what it is. I haven't watched it, but that he's playing an American, right? So
yeah. So it makes it just genuinely surprised me with how strong his Irish accent is and how incredibly British he is here. And a lot of people have said, being a Richard Curtis film, how much he sounds like Hugh Grant, which I can get.
Yeah, sort of what they're going for. He's
which apparently was completely unintentional, and Richard Curtis didn't notice it himself.
That's just what he goes for in casting.
So as we move on to minute 2,
he finishes saying he's too skinny and too orange.
Which, yeah, I mean, I like, as a fellow ginger, I like how much attention is just put here and there about him being ginger, because it feels real. It's not too much attention that it's a recurring joke throughout the film. It just...
They barely even make a joke out of it. They just mention it here a few times. Yeah.
And I quite like that, because that at least on my part, as a ginger, that feels completely normal and natural, and it's kind of weird to talk about gingers' experiences, but it is. It's a thing that will come up here and there. So then we meet the rest of his family.
Yep.
He says, "My mum was lovely, but not like other mums. There was something solid about her, something rectangular. Busy and unsentimental, her fashion icon was the Queen."
Yeah.
And these are sort of great character introductions that he gives us, really. It's kind of weird. His mum's, like, not that significant a character, really, but she still has a lot of character depth to her.
Well, she's similar to, in the second half of the movie, the other Mary, in that they're these solid figures that are... Without them, the men's lives wouldn't be going very well, but we don't really get to necessarily know them.
And I think that's That's something else real in it as well, is the idea very few films tend to have two characters with the same name, and I think just
Yeah.
adds another level of reality to it. And of course adds the great comedy later on, when he's trying to talk to Mary.
Yeah, it makes it
Um,
awkward.
so then we meet Dad, who I think we can agree is like the best character in this,
He
hopefully.
is.
Uh,
Yeah.
he says, Dad, well, he was more normal. He always seemed to have time on his hands. After giving up teaching university students on his 50th birthday, he was eternally available for a leisurely chat or to let me win at table tennis. And yeah, I mean, the dad, I know that Richard Curtis asked Bill Nye to do it, and Bill Nye said, I'll do it as long as I don't have to act. And then he followed that up by saying basically he just wants to play it as he would be. And it's nice every now and then to see Bill Nye being a nice and likable character, because it's so rare.
Yeah. Like,
Especially in Richard Curtis stuff. I mean, he is in Girl in the Cafe, but Boat That Rocked and Love Actually and things like that.
yeah, he's Davy
He's
Jones in Pirates of the Caribbean, a
mm,
bad guy. Who is he in Harry
and he's not.
Potter?
I don't know Harry Potter. No,
I
I
can't
haven't
remember
seen
who
it
he
in a long,
plays
long
in Harry
time.
Potter. He's in Deathly Hallows as somebody. I don't remember.
Incidentally, I am planning this week on rewatching through all the Harry Potter films, so maybe I'll be able to tell you by future episode. Because I genuinely think I've only seen each of the Harry Potters once, so it's my chance to actually finally see whether I get what everyone's going on about. A bit late to the party, admittedly.
Yeah, just a bit.
Then there was Mum's brother, Uncle Desmond, always
Yes.
impeccably dressed, spent the days just, well, being Uncle Desmond. He was one of the most charming and least clever man you'd ever meet. His mind was on other things, although we never found out what. He's such a Richard Curtis character, to be
Hmm.
honest. I mean, he's completely irrelevant to the plot, but it's
Yeah.
fine.
And we get another nice visual because Tim blended in with like the
Yes,
hallway and the floor. The parents are both wearing green and they're sitting like the father was out by the trees and the mother's in the garden and they kind of blend in. But Desmond doesn't quite match the place around him. He sort of matches the furniture, but not quite. And so he stands out a little more as like this odd character. And
that's true.
you'd think from this appearance he's going to be really important. But yeah, as you said, he's not. He has nothing to do with the plot. You can guess something about him because he's mom's brother, not dad's brother. So he could never time travel. He's just weird. Huh.
I mean, he does provide some well-earned comic relief at
Oh
some
yeah.
quite
Because
serious
he's always
times,
so
so he
confused by
it
things.
works in that part, yeah, and it's great. I'm wondering whether it would actually work with this podcast. Say, like, if we did it like this, where like I talk about audio and you talk about video, and then we chat to it. Would that work?
Sure.
We'll try that. See how it works. People can see the evolution, hear the evolution of the podcast, I should say. And yeah, I do quite like Uncle Desmond. And then finally there was Catherine, Katie, Kit Kat, my sister. In a household of sensible jackets and haircuts, there was this, well, what I can call a nature thing, with her elfin eyes, her purple t-shirts, and her eternally bare feet. She was then, and then time cuts out.
Yeah.
It's quite an interesting relationship we have between Tim and Kit Kat.
Yeah. Or
Like
anyone in Kit
it's a
Kat.
lot.
Kit Kat
Yeah,
has interesting
it's
relationships.
it's a lot closer brother and sister than you normally have in films,
Mm-hmm.
and I think
Yeah.
it's quite sweet. And there is some great banter and plot points between her. Although her plot point that comes up later on is fine, but I always tend to find that bit like my least favorite part of the film, to be honest. But yeah.
I actually kind of like it, but we can talk about that when we get there.
But yeah, I mean, I think another thing to talk about is just the incredible house and the setting in Cornwall. Like, it's just beautiful. Because I genuinely, just because of this film, want to go down for like a weekend in Cornwall at some point, just for the beach and the house. And I'll admit, when I was in London recently, I spent ages trying to find, and I think I've looked like a photo, but I think I found the spot of the buskers in the tube station. A lot of
Nice.
time, but I'm at. Well, because I was watching About Time on the journey to London, so I just paused it when they were in the tube station to find out like what station they were at, and then happened to go that route. And I don't know how I forgot to take a photo. It's very, very busy in the London tube stations, to be honest. I don't know if you've ever been in London and on the tube, but
Yeah.
oof.
Long time ago.
So is there anything else to say about these 2 minutes? Because they're
Well, going back to
It's just
the visuals on the family, Kit Kat being the weird one is introduced, inside a wicker chair, wearing boots and a bikini,
hmm,
which is an
I'm just
interesting
looking at that
outfit.
bit now, actually. Yeah, and whether it means anything, she's not centered to the frame either, is she? In her introduction,
No, and she's tucked inside that chair like a little kid, being all weird with her feet and stuff. So
Hmm.
it's a good introduction visually and with the narration for all five of them.
And she reminds me in the following shot when she's doing her nature thing.
Yeah.
It reminds me of. I feel like it's a character that Emma Thompson plays in some film, and I can't think what the film is. It might be Maybe Baby, but I could be completely wrong.
I couldn't figure out who
Uh,
Kit Kat reminded me of because I'm like, oh, I know this actress. And then when I looked her up for my notes, I'm like,
she's not in
I
anything.
don't think
Yeah,
she's been in anything I've seen. I'm like, why do I know
same
this
with.
actress? Like, she must look like someone else.
And I guess that's the other point to go down. Now at this point is the cast then. So Donald Gleason we already talked about quite a bit
Mm-hmm.
with Ex Machina, and he was also in Goodbye Christopher Robin with Margot
Yep.
Robbie and Peter Rabbit with Margot Robbie. So they appear to be doing a lot of stuff together. Rachel McAdams, what would you say you know Rachel McAdams from mostly?
Oh, I hadn't even thought about her because she's not in the movie yet.
Oh yeah, good point. We could wait until she appears.
Yeah, I didn't even put her in my notes yet because I'm like, I'll get to her later.
We've got a while actually.
Yeah.
Good point. Ignore me. I'm going through this, but I'm also going through like the cast order. I think we had her name on screen yet.
Yeah, I think it was on the screen when they showed the father. I think it was one of the first names.
Yeah, it's the mother when she's walking out of the trees.
Yeah.
Bill Nye, and then does Lindsay Duncan even get a credit? I think she does. Do you know Lindsay Duncan from anything really?
I had to look her up, but once I looked her up, I'm like, oh yeah, that's her. Mostly, like I remember her from Doctor Who, because she was in which one she?
Yeah, that was the same for me.
She in
What
Waters
was
of
Among Us?
Mars.
Yeah, and I think I've seen her in. I think that's something where she plays like a politician. Oh, it's Sherlock, isn't it? Where she's like a
She was in
politician or
Sherlock. Yeah,
something.
she was on Rome.
Because she's once again, as I think we'll realise quite a lot through this, British films and especially British comedy, we have like the same circuit of actors in.
Well, yeah,
everything.
she did a voice for Phantom Menace, and Donald Gleason is in 3 Star Wars movies. So it's like those are all do a lot of their filming in England. So yeah, these people are going to be in there.
Uncle Desmond looks familiar, but that might just be because I've seen this film so many times.
He's mostly a stage actor.
He's got that kind of look, actually. That makes sense.
Yeah, I don't think he had any IMDb credits that I'd even seen, maybe heard of.
And then, yeah, as we said, Kit Kat, we don't really know anything that she's been in either. So
she's in Never Let Me Go.
Although we have got,
along
who
with
is she?
Donald.
I haven't seen that in a long time.
Yeah. She's in a Star Trek movie, but I don't remember if she looked like herself or had makeup or what.
But I think it's quite good in this as well that Richard Curtis has cast a good few unknowns.
Yeah.
Because even at this point, Margot Robbie was pretty unknown to the rest of the world.
Yeah, this is early for her.
I mean, Wolf of Wall Street was the same year, so she had a boost around this time. But obviously, while they were filming, it wasn't. And once again, her British accent's pretty good in this. Like, this was the first thing I saw Margot Robbie in, and I wouldn't have had any idea she was Australian. And I think that's pretty much everything covered in this
for 2
minute. Apart from the fact that the family are, pretty middle class, which we haven't really talked about, which is a very common Richard Curtis thing. You rarely have the lower class or the poorer people being main characters in Richard Curtis films, because I guess that's just the life he knows. And I don't think we can really say anything to Richard Curtis in terms of not writing poor people since he founded Comic Relief. I think that kind of balances itself out a bit.
Yeah.
So I guess the point is now, where can people find you on social media and all that stuff?
You can find links to all my podcasts and stuff at lemmingdrops.com. If you want to follow my personal stuff, which is annoying, look up Robert E.G. Black on social media.
You can find all of my stuff at lukeallen.co.uk. You can find my podcast, Please Be Seated, on most good podcast platforms. I'm on Twitter at llama_bottle0. It's a very old Twitter, and I just never changed it. You can find me on Instagram at thegingerluke, and you can find this show on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at 2 Mins About Time. The 2 Minutes About Time theme is performed by Ethan O'Mahony and is a cover of the About Time theme originally composed by Nick Laird Close. 2 Minutes About Time is a production of Lemon Drop Studios in association with Bottle O Productions.